Okay, hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Thorne. I am so glad that you're here. I'm just delighted to be able to share so much of the information and tools and tricks that I've learned over my life and also as a life coach. This meeting is being recorded, so just know that. And if you're not able to join live, that's totally fine. I'll be sending out the recordings after each session. We have 5 sessions planned this summer. This was a totally spur of the moment thing. It's a little out of my comfort zone. I'm a self-proclaimed introvert, so doing this kind of thing is a little surprising to me, but I just want to share everything that I have learned and all the things that I know to be true about how we can change and transform our lives. So if you're on the call live, if you want to do a chat, if you want to say something to me, just use the chat, and all you need to do on a laptop is pull your mouse down the screen, and there's a toolbar that pops up at the bottom, and there should be a little chat button, and I'll try to keep an eye on the chat. And then if you're on your phone, I think you just tap the screen and you should get the toolbar and be able to do a chat there. So I promised to keep these at 30 minutes, so I'm going to be throwing a lot at you in a short amount of time, but I want to value your time. I don't want it to be a 1 hour, 2 hour webinar. They're just exhausting, right? So I'm trying to give you 30-minute snips 5 times this summer, possibly 6, we'll see, and go from there. Now today's might go just a little bit long because I wanted to introduce myself, and also because I'm really laying the foundation for the rest of the series today with talking about mindset. So before we go into that, a little bit about me. I'm Lisa Thorne. As I said, I'm a holistic health coach or a holistic life coach. The health or the life doesn't matter so much. It's the holistic piece that is really critical. And what I mean when I say holistic is that when I'm working with you or a client, I'm looking at the whole picture. So your body, your physical self, your mind, your mental state, your spiritual state, your emotions, your faith, your beliefs, your programming. Programming can be positive or negative, right? It doesn't have to be a negative. I look at your environment, the environment in which you live, and also the environment in which you choose to place yourself. And relationships, so bigger than all of those things too are relationships, your relationship with your career or your job, your relationship with, of course, your spouse, your family, your friends, your loved ones, and your relationship with yourself. I also look at the relationship maybe you have with money or a relationship with alcohol or with food, right? So that's what my focus as a holistic health coach is. So people say, well, Lisa, what do you coach on? My specialty, my interest is in nutrition and specifically digestion. But what I find over and over is that a client will come to me with one goal or one desire, and it generally leads to many others. And when we make some mindset shifts, all of the areas improve. And I love it. I absolutely love being a life coach. I have come a long way in my life. I've come through thick and thin. I am right now very, very happy in my life. I have been for some years, and I get happier all the time. I have so much joy. I love my life. I love where I'm at. That wasn't always the case by any means. I have a beautiful daughter. She's 21 and married to just a wonderful, wonderful man. And they are happy, which is such a win as a mom. You know, they just both bring me so much joy. I also have 4 borrowed daughters. They're exchange daughters, exchange students that I have hosted over the years, have had the good fortune to know and continue relationships with. So my girls are scattered across the globe, but I love them all and love having them in my life. So I am happy. I am truly, joyfully happy. I just filled out a health form. I guess it was a couple years ago now, or a year and a half ago now. And you know how they always ask you, like, the smiley faces, the sad, the frowny faces to the happy face, like, where are you on the pain scale? And it's just impossible to choose. Or where are you with your emotions? You know, they're always checking in, which is great. But I always find it hard to choose. But I found I didn't have any, you know, neutral to bad smiley faces. I was above the middle to the high on every single question. And that was really a monumental day for me. Like, I'm doing well. And I just want everybody to do this well. It's possible. We can all get there. We can get there. If I'm a testament to it, you know, anybody is. So, as I said, I've had some hard times in my life, you know, feelings of inadequacy for sure, trying to fit in a world that really wasn't meant for me to fit into. For Brene Brown talks about the difference between fitting in. The opposite of fitting in is belonging. And I found that to be true. When I look back at my life and I look at the successes I've had, it was when I was just being my authentic self, showing up in the world as me, belonging as me, versus trying to fit in, which was change myself or, you know, contract or change or shift or that kind of thing. That's when things were hard and it was pushing against things in my life. So Brene Brown talks about showing up, to show up in the arena, you know, and this is you're doing it right now. So congratulations, you're in the arena right now, just by being on this call and by watching this webinar. You're showing up in the world as yourself. And I just really commend you for that. I've always been a very positive person, aside from, you know, trials and tribulations in my life. I used to always say, in fact, still say, I'm terminally optimistic. So I will be looking for the positive till I die. Like I'm looking, like I'm going to find the bright side, damn it, you know. And oh, I should say this is probably an R-rated webinar. I tend to swear a bit, so apologies in advance. But you know, I just knew that whenever I was focusing on the negative or feelings of lack, right, versus abundance, when I was focusing on it, what I didn't have, what was wrong, what I wish was different, that kind of thing, it didn't feel good. It just didn't feel like the right focus. And I've always known since I was a small child, focusing on the positive, even if it's hard, even if it's like scaling a cliff, you know, I felt better looking earnestly for something good in a situation than so easily falling back on what's wrong. Picking things apart, finding the negative, it's so easy. It's so easy. It really has to do with our 2 million year old brain. Our brains are hardwired to find threats and risk and to keep us safe from that. So in our world today, we don't have, most of us, a ton of threat, at least in our first world. So, you know, when our Amazon package doesn't arrive, it's us going, oh, things are bad, things are wrong. It's our brain noticing, you know, the things that need to be corrected, the things that we need to be kept safe from. Our phone isn't sending messages or that kind of thing. And I'm trivializing a little bit, but it's also true. It's just our brains are hardwired to find the things that are wrong so that we will be prepared for that. But the wonderful thing is we are evolved creatures and we can move beyond that instinctual focus. So we might have this spiral of negative thinking that it just comes kind of by rote, maybe self-doubt, maybe our expectations aren't met and we spiral, we're thinking maybe we're trying to figure somebody out, a boyfriend, you know, why is he doing this to me, or a girlfriend, why does she say that, you know, we're trying to figure it out, we're trying to solve it. And the science behind why we spiral down is because our thoughts are electrical and our emotions are magnetic. And this is proven science. This is, you know, they have pictures of this. They have pictures of the brain waves and the electromagnetic frequency. So we are electromagnetic creatures, okay? By virtue of our thoughts and our emotions, we send an electromagnetic current out into the world and thereby attract other things into our sphere, depending on the vibration or the frequency that we're sending out. This sounds maybe a little out there, but this work has been being done for decades. And now with quantum physics, we're getting proof of it. It's really fascinating. So that spiral down, excuse me, is us attracting more of that negativity to us. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. Excuse me. And the wonderful thing is that we can go in the other direction. We can spiral up. We can find the good things, and then more and more good things come to us. Excuse me. So we're also creating neural pathways in our brain. We're creating these ruts or these grooves or these, you know, you think about a needle on a record, that kind of thing. And in my life, I've had kind of housing insecurity. That's at least one version of the story I can tell. I can also tell this story, the version where I've had incredible good fortune with my housing. But for the point of this story is I've had some housing insecurity in my life, and going way back years and years before my daughter, I was living in Oregon, and I was living in the back of a truck. I had a Ford Ranger with a topper on it, and I had a nice little bed back there and a bookshelf. And it was cozy and nice, but when I would close the flap, the door, the window, I can't think of what to call it, it didn't lock. So certainly I was in there all night, parked on a side street, not particularly safe, but nothing ever really happened. But I had a longing. I had a longing, and I would walk the streets at night and I would look at the houses, these cute houses with their lights on, and I could see the silhouettes of people moving around, maybe a TV flickering, hear laughter sometimes, and I just wanted that so badly, so badly, right? So eventually as life went on, I went to college, had my daughter, etc. So by the time she's 2.5, I bought a house. It was my very first house. And for months, I used to go stand out on the street and look in my own windows at the lights of the cozy house, and then walk through that door and know that it was mine. So that deeply ingrained story I had told myself took some work for me to get through, to feel more secure in my home, in my life. So the point of that story is simply that those are actual grooves and their stories, and we can reroute them. We can rewire them. We just have to be brave. Really, this work is hard. It's hard work. We have to be brave and we have to dig deep. Okay, so just remember to show up and be proud of yourself for being here, and find your courage. So before we get into the science and the how of doing all of this work, let's do a real quick, sorry, I got a quick message here. Let's do a real quick changing of your energy. So energy is a pattern. This comes from Jenna Kutcher, no relation to Ashton. And she, and this is also, I mean, applied all over the place. We know that energy is a pattern. So if you're receiving this information and you're sitting in your normal place where you normally watch webinars and you're sitting in your normal posture, change it. So if you're sitting, stand up. If you're standing for whatever reason, sit down, move around, shake, do something, put your shoulders down and back, let your chest lift, do some breaths, right? Big, deep breaths in and out, and just feel how good it feels to feel that oxygen moving through your body and filling your lungs and expanding. You can do a power posture, you can do like a ready, you can do Shazam, you can do cheerleading, whatever. So the point is that you're opening to receiving the information. And what that does is that helps us open the neural pathways that we receive in a different way, we receive in a different state. If we're always receiving when we're in the same state, it's not going to change for us. We need to make changes in order to receive differently. Okay, great. So if you would like to sit back down, that's fine. Whatever you're comfortable with. You're welcome to stay standing and moving around. So what do we mean by mindset? Mindset is such a buzzword, right? It's our point of focus. It's what we're focusing on, or maybe our desire that we want. And I feel also it's what's behind that focus, what's driving that focus. Is it fear? Is it love? Is it hope? Is it worry? And usually our focus is shaped by our beliefs. And again, our beliefs are just a thought that we've said enough that we believe it, or our programming. So maybe other people have been telling us a story a long time and we've believed it, and maybe it has served us, and maybe those beliefs and programming have served us greatly in our lives at some point. But the beautiful thing is we evolve as humans and we get to shed those belief systems that no longer serve us and don't help move us forward. If things are now holding us back, it's time to make those changes, right? So we created the belief system, we allowed the programming, we created our belief in programming, and so we get to change that. We get to create new beliefs and new programming. Oftentimes we change due to trauma or loss or disease, right? Somebody dies and we just wish we had done so many things differently, or we have a diagnosis now and our whole lives are going to look different going forward, we think, or we've suffered some hardship, right? So instead of changing out of loss, let's change out of joy and inspiration. Let's change today. Let's get ahead of it, get ahead of trauma and make the change starting now, right? Just grab onto it. It's hard, it's uncomfortable, but again, this counts. You being here right now counts. This is the beginning, this is the start. Maybe you're already doing the work. This is part of it. This is one of the steps. There's so many methods out there for how to do this work, how to change the brain, how to make things different. I can share with you what works for me, and if it resonates, great, and if it doesn't, that's okay. My job as a coach is to offer you tools and resources and walk with you as you find your way, and your way might not be my way, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm just here to help guide you and cheer you on and offer you other opportunities and options, right? So change is hard and uncomfortable, but what are some things we've done in our lives that were hard and uncomfortable with huge payoffs once we got through? Well, we learned how to tie our shoes. Remember how hard that was? Our little hands, our little fingers, and those laces were everywhere, and it didn't make any sense, and there was too many loops. Well, now you get to tie your shoes any old time, and think of what life would have been like if you would have just been like, nope, I'm not doing it. It's too hard, right? Or riding a bike. It wasn't immediately gratifying. It was hard. It probably hurt. There were skinned knees. But now, if you know how to ride a bike, what freedom comes with that, right? There's so many other things, like learning how to write, learning how to do our alphabet, learning how to write in cursive maybe, playing sports, studying for a test, learning how to knit, how to paint. All those things, none of them were instantly gratifying. They were hard, but we wanted it badly enough that we stuck with it, and it really paid off. And this is the same kind of work to do, okay? And you get it for the rest of your life, just like they say, you never forget how to ride a bike. Well, it's really true. You know, once you learn this work, you just get back on again if you stop for a while, you know. So I suspect you're here because there's something that you want to change. Maybe there's one thing you have in mind. Maybe you want to improve a relationship. Maybe you want to lose some weight. Maybe you want to find a different job, you know, something like that. But what I will also suspect and assume is that there's probably a whole lot of other things that go along with that, okay? So you can hold in your mind to focus on that one desire that you have, but be open to the fact that there are other things too that accompany it and that are all intertwined with it. And most of us want to change, which is wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. When we change, we open to new possibilities. And when we open to new possibilities, we become bigger and greater and more whole, and we expand. So when quantum physics talks about, you know, the universe always expanding, I believe that's what it is. It's us, it's our desires, it's us getting bigger and grander and greater and taking in more and more and more. That's the expansion. That's my personal take on it, because the thought of the universe expanding is just like, right, it's really hard to comprehend. And you deserve this. We all deserve it. You deserve every single thing that you desire. You deserve all the abundance that you can handle. So why not reach for it, right? That's how I feel. And if you tried in the past to change things and it didn't work, it's probably because of your beliefs and your programming. It's probably because you believe there was a certain way you had to make a change. You had to go without food in order to lose weight. You had to suffer through exercise. You had to swallow your feelings to be in this relationship, this kind of thing. So you had to do without, or you believed there was a certain method. So instead of how you did it, I would challenge you to look at, when you look back in the past at successes, things that you have been able to change for the better that you wanted to, what was your frame of mind around it? What did you believe around it? Look at your belief systems. And then likewise with things that have failed or you feel have failed. I don't believe there's really true failure. Things that haven't changed in the way that you wanted. What were your beliefs? What was your self-talk around that? Was it lack or was it abundance? Was it love or was it fear, right? So just looking at that kind of thing. And I'm, again, just challenging you to see new possibilities. So very quickly on the science end of it, way back when we had Newtonian physics or Newtonian science. I'm not a scientist, I should say. If anything, I'm a social scientist, but I just study a lot about the science and I love the facts and the evidence that's before us. So Newton said everything was solid. Einstein came along and said, nope, everything is energy and mass. So energy equals mass, mass equals energy, E equals mc squared. So that really changed everything. So we know that mass is essentially energy, right? And we know the atom, so it used to be, with Newton, there was that styrofoam ball with the pins in it, right? Like all the kids did for science class. The quantum atom, we know, is 99.999% energy and just a little smidge of actual mass. which means we, made up of atoms, are 99.999% energy and just a smidge of what we perceive as our reality. We're always focusing on this physical world, but we're really made up of energy. And that's lovely because it gives us great power over the trajectory of our lives when we start to understand that and embrace that, because we can put that to our advantage, okay? So much research, so many different branches of science, quantum physics, epigenetics, other methodologies like neurolinguistic programming, and other research, they're all finding evidence that we can change our brains, change our neural pathways just with our thoughts. So our neural pathways, our neurotransmitters, our neuropeptides, and our hormones are all chemical messengers. They send messages to our body, and ultimately that creates an emotional state in us. So what that means is our thoughts create an emotion. And remember, those are electromagnetic currents happening. So we now know that our emotions can change our brain. It can go in the other direction. And there's evidence of this. And that is really, really exciting. So that means that our beliefs, our belief systems, totally unrelated to what we think of as reality, can affect our brain structure itself. There's a lot of examples of this. The famous placebo effect has been around forever, right? Even when people know it's a placebo, oftentimes their symptoms are still reduced. I mean, it's because they have hope. It's an emotional reaction to that. There's studies where people were doing bicep curls with a weight, physically doing bicep curls, and then the other group were just imagining doing bicep curls, bicep curl, bicep curl. They didn't actually lift any weights. Same exact result. Same bicep muscle tone and strengthening. Exactly the same. One with the mind, one doing it physically. There's another study where people were holding a test tube with DNA, and one just had a thought about it. One group of people were just sending a thought about it and nothing happened. And another group sent a thought accompanied with an emotion to the, just like almost like a prayer type thing, right? And those DNA strands uncoiled. There was a radical shift. There's a famous study, well, I don't even know if it's famous, but it was years and years and years ago. And back then it was like mystical and magical. It was way before anybody was even talking about this stuff with water droplets. And this really neat guy was taking pictures of water droplets as people were sending, thoughts and emotions to it. So in one group, they were yelling at the water droplets, I hate you, and sending negativity. And those water molecules in the water droplets would fracture and break and splinter, and they couldn't regroup again. And this other group was saying to the water droplets, I love you, sending love to the water droplets. And those water droplets all made these intricate, complex, beautiful patterns and expanded and connected to each other. So pretty cool stuff. Really, really neat stuff. So whether or not you buy into it, there's proof of it. And we know then we can train our thoughts and our patterns. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we train our thoughts and our feelings, and how do we change? I'm going to borrow an analogy from Dean Graziosi about a tractor. If you think about a tractor, it's always driving to the field down the same two-track, year after year, day after day, driving down that field driving down to get to the field in the two-track. And imagine the ruts in that field. Just imagine. So that's our thoughts. That's that thought pathway, that neural pathway. So what if you're driving that tractor and you just turn that steering wheel just a smidge. So the first 10 feet of that pathway is going to be really hard to climb out of. The first 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 feet, that tractor is going to be climbing, and it's going to slide back and slide back and slide back. And then at 11 feet, maybe it finally gets that next wheel up. And then at 15 feet, it's got the next wheel. And then at 20 feet, and then by 100 feet, it's going in a totally different direction, right? So all our goal is to just turn that wheel just a bit. And we got to climb, and we got to work, and we got to really, really allow and keep at it and not give up. Because by 100 feet, we're going in a completely different direction, which is where we want to go. So our goal with our thoughts is to focus forward to the future, typically our thoughts are past based. We're always referring to what we knew, what happened before. So when we're doing this work, we want to be looking future now versus past now. So it happened before, it must happen again. That's the way it works. Versus future now is, that's the way I want it to happen. I'm going to make it happen today. I want it to happen like that in the future. I'm going to make it happen today. So that's kind of the mindset shift. I talked about neurolinguistic programming as a method. A lot of people use meditation. If that works for you, lovely, wonderful. I struggle with meditation. It's a hard one for me. I'm a busy person. I talk fast. You can see this. So that's not so great. There's other methods where they just simply practice love on everything. That's a little more vague, but if it works for you, it's great. And also law of attraction is about being positive and hopeful. So all of them actually are doing very similar things. They're all doing very similar things, which is noticing your thinking and then making a change for the better, for the positive, toward what you want, away from lack, toward abundance. So number one, here's your takeaway. Notice the thought. If you do nothing else this next week before our next series, notice the self-talk and the thoughts around the thing or things you want to change. That counts. Just simply noticing counts, okay? That's good. That's making a little tiny little change in those pathways if you're noticing it. It's a little different than what you've done before. It counts as you being in the arena. You're not in the sidelines, all right? Then if you can, determine whether that thought serves you. Does that belief serve you anymore? And you're not beating up on yourself. You're not judging. Why did I believe that? That's stupid. No, because at some point it served you. At some point it kept you safe. At some point it helped you. It's okay to let it go, and you don't need to be upset about it. We're just going to change it and move life forward, right? So does it serve you anymore? And you can even say, when that thought comes along, that thought doesn't serve me anymore. Thanks for showing me what I no longer need. I don't need that thought anymore, right? So it's all about rewiring and snipping off those connections, those synapses, rewiring, right? This is a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'll try to put in the recording when I send out that email, all of these different references that I'm talking about. And if your thoughts are really, really, really cyclical, get up, move around, change your position, change your focus altogether. Stop thinking about whatever the thing was. Notice something that makes you feel good, like a kitty cat. Rub the kitty cat's belly. Go smell a flower. Oh, the sky is so pretty today. Gee, that sun feels good. It doesn't even have to be related to the thing that you were focusing on. You don't have to find a good thing about it. You can focus totally differently on something else, because the point is that you're interrupting that cycle, right? And then the last thing I'm going to offer to you today, if you can, is to elevate the thought. And this is hard. This is really tough work. Let's say you're feeling despair. If there's any way that you can move despair just up, just a smidge up, what we would call the emotional scale, toward maybe disappointment, right? And so how do you do that? Like, it's easy to say, but how do you do it? One of the best methods is to fantasize, to just be really playful and just fantastical about it. Like, well, what if this isn't true? What if he really isn't mad at me, and instead he loves me so much that he just can't talk to me right now? What if, I don't know. I'm terrible at examples, but what if, I'm not stuck in this job forever? What if I'm going to win the lottery? What if I have so much money, I don't know what to do with it? Just go for it. Just go for it, because you're interrupting, and then you're moving from despair to maybe disappointment. And then maybe the next time you have the thought, you're sitting at disappointment, and then we try to elevate, and maybe we move up to resignation. And then maybe the next time you're having those thoughts, resignation turns to hope, and then hope to joy, right? So that's the idea. And there's work, and it's hard, and there's a ton of tools and tricks, and I'm going very high level, and I'm going very fast because we're 29 minutes in. But challenge yourself to see, first of all, is the thought even true? Does it serve me? How do I feel when I think this thought? Am I thinking out of fear? Am I thinking out of love, etc.? So shift your focus just to anything good. It sounds simple, and it sounds maybe oversimplified, but it's hard, but it works, and there's proof. There's a lot of evidence. So that's a lot. Okay. So in my sessions, if we worked together, I would suggest one or two of those things, and maybe like if we were working on diet, maybe a couple little changes, because again, we're just changing the steering wheel just a smidge. We're just trying to get out of these old patterns. We're trying to make new routines and new patterns. Okay. So if you can't do all of those things, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just trying to give you as much as possible. It was very hard for me to whittle down this presentation to know what to share. And we're building on those small changes so that they become routine, as I said, and allow those small successes to lead to massive transformation. Okay. So little tiny, little small successes. We're so wanting like everything now, everything now, everything now. Let the small successes be the win. Find those things that you're happy about, that you're making change about. Okay, enough. So as my thank you for you being here in this series, I'm also going to sign you up for my Monday Mindset series. I stopped doing that some months ago. I'm going to start it up again. So you'll get a video and just a little email every Monday. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. It doesn't unsubscribe you from me, but it'll unsubscribe you from the Monday Mindset. So thank you for being here. I'll send out the recording later today with as many resources as I can think about. And then next Friday, same time, we're going to talk about your diet and the food that you eat and how it impacts your emotions. So a lot of times we think about emotional eating. Well, this is actually the other direction, and how the foods that we eat can impact our emotions in both positive and negative ways. And if you want to hear about anything at all, send me an email, send me a text, whatever you can, whatever method's good for you. I'm so happy to hear from you. And that's all I have today, everybody. So remember, be brave and dig deep. And you can do this. Bye.